The movie, The Manchurian Candidate, captivated audiences with its extreme tension and unpredictable story. It is considered a masterpiece of political thrillers, set against the backdrop of the Cold War's anxiety. Directed by John Frankenheimer and starring Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, and Janet Leigh, this film uncovers a chilling conspiracy centered on a man brainwashed to become a human weapon. The movie takes place in 1952 during the Korean War. It begins when an American infantry platoon is attacked by the enemy and taken as prisoners to Manchuria. This platoon, led by Major Ben Marco Frank Sinatra, surprisingly returns with no casualties. In particular, Sergeant Raymond Shaw, Lawrence Harvey, is hailed as a hero for his remarkable achievements and receives a medal. Along with his image as a war hero, Shaw rapidly rises in prominence, boosted by the influence of his powerful and politically connected mother, Eleanor Shaw Iceland Angela Lansbury. However, Major Marco, after returning home, is plagued by nightmares and hallucinations, leading him to strongly doubt the events that occurred during their captivity. He vaguely senses the terrifying truth that he and his fellow soldiers were brainwashed, and that Sergeant Shaw was manipulated to perform specific actions against their will. Discovering that other survivors are also experiencing similar nightmares, Marco instinctively feels that all of this is part of a massive conspiracy, and he begins to dig for the truth. While investigating the details of the events, Marco learns that Shaw's mother, Eleanor Angela Lansbury, and her husband, John Eslen James Gregory, an influential senator, are key figures in a vast political plot behind the scenes. Eleanor, in league with communist forces, is plotting a terrifying scheme to brainwash her son Shaw, to assassinate a United States presidential candidate and seize power amidst the resulting chaos. As the threat increasingly closes in, Marco revisits his past memories and becomes certain that Shaw was trained as an unconscious killing machine during the brainwashing process. He desperately tries to stop his mother's evil plan to destroy Shaw, and at the same time, to save him from the grip of brainwashing. In the climax, Marco tries to prevent Shaw from assassinating the presidential candidate, but the brainwashed Shaw makes his own decision in the midst of extreme conflict. The movie ends with a tragic yet profound lingering feeling. The Manchurian Candidate is more than just a thriller. It is considered a remarkable work that sharply depicts the ideological conflicts of the Cold War, the resulting destruction of humanity in the dark aspects of political conspiracy. The sophisticated direction, the outstanding performances of the actors, and the shocking twist remain powerful and timeless appeals of the film. The movie The Manchurian Candidate is not just a simple thriller. This work deeply explores the anxieties of the Cold War, ideological conflicts, and the destruction of humanity. The events that form the backdrop of this movie are as follows. First, the Korean War and brainwashing. During the Korean War, the Chinese Communist forces actually attempted to brainwash American prisoners of war through psychological pressure and ideological education. Rather than severe physical torture, they aimed for long-term mental manipulation. Through isolation from the outside world, continuous propaganda, and a system of peer surveillance, some prisoners showed pro-communist attitudes even after their release. Second, World War II and brainwashing research. During World War II, Germany was skilled in propaganda and psychological manipulation. Joseph Goebbels' propaganda strategies tried to manipulate public sentiment to paralyze critical thinking, and brainwashing education, especially targeting young people, was widely implemented. Third, brainwashing research conducted by the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. American intelligence agencies researched human mind control through various methods, such as hypnosis and psychological manipulation under Project MK Ultra. MK was the approval code for the technical services staff within the CIA's Office of Technical Services, which oversaw small equipment, disguises, and code decryption necessary for intelligence operations. And Ultra meant top secret information. The project in question is known to have been pushed forward with the approval of director Alan Dulles at the time. After learning that many of the U.S. troops returned from being prisoners of the Korean War were exposed to the brainwashing of communist forces. The method of the experiments was, in a nutshell, to observe the reactions of subjects after applying stimuli, to understand the responses and interactions of brainwashing, reverse brainwashing, and memory manipulation. It is known that most of the subjects were prisoners of war or criminals. However, Project MKUltra was officially terminated in 1973 due to ethical concerns. At that time, CIA Director Richard Helms destroyed all related documents. The Soviet Union also had an interest in research on hypnosis and brainwashing techniques during the Cold War. There were attempts to apply Pavlov's theory of conditioned reflexes to political and social control, and research on hypnosis for prisoner interrogation and information acquisition was also reportedly conducted. Although information is relatively limited compared to the Western world, the possibility of psychological techniques being used for political indoctrination and the suppression of dissidents has been raised. Like this, Nazi Germany during World War II and the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War each tried to research and utilize hypnosis and brainwashing techniques for different purposes and in different ways. These studies became the subject matter for spy thrillers like the movie The Manchurian Candidate, and emphasized the importance of understanding human psychology and ethical considerations even today. Meanwhile, with the rapid advancement of science and technology in the 21st century, concerns and discussions about new forms of brainwashing technology using electronic devices, in addition to traditional psychological methods, have emerged. So far, clear evidence that perfect and immediate electronic device-based brainwashing technology, as depicted in science fiction movies or novels, actually exists is difficult to find. However, the development of brain science, neuroscience, and information technology potentially presents various possibilities that could influence human thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and ethical and social discussions about this are necessary. The potential brainwashing technologies using electronic devices currently being discussed are as follows. First, brain-computer interface technology. BCI is a technology that allows direct communication between the brain and computers or other electronic devices by detecting electrical signals from the brain. In the medical field, it is used for treating neurological disorders and controlling prosthetic limbs. Theoretically, it raises the possibility of influencing thoughts or emotions by inputting information into the brain or inducing specific neural activity patterns. Second, direct information injection. There is a theoretical possibility of directly transmitting specific information or messages to the brain to make someone believe it or induce specific behaviors. However, current technology is very limited, and injecting complex thoughts or belief systems is a difficult task. Third, emotion and behavior induction. It is possible to indirectly influence emotions and behaviors by stimulating or suppressing brain regions related to specific emotions or actions. For example, scenarios can be imagined where anxiety is induced or specific. Behaviors are repeated using electrical stimulation of a particular frequency. Fourth, reinforcement or weakening of specific thought patterns. The possibility theoretically exists to control the intensity of specific thoughts or beliefs by repeatedly stimulating or suppressing brain regions associated with them. Fifth, subliminal messaging. Repeatedly exposing individuals to subtle auditory or visual messages below the level of conscious awareness could induce unconscious belief or behavioral changes. However, there is still controversy regarding scientific evidence for its effectiveness. Sixth, the use of information and communication technology and social media. The internet and social media platforms enable the distribution of vast amounts of information and interaction between individuals, algorithm-based personalized information provision, opinion manipulation, and the spread of fake news can indirectly influence an individual's thoughts and beliefs. By analyzing an individual's search history and social media activity, only information that reinforces a specific viewpoint or argument can be continuously provided, deepening confirmation bias and making it difficult to encounter other perspectives. These technologies can be used to identify an individual's psychological vulnerabilities, such as anxiety, fear, and desires to make them more easily persuaded by specific messages or arguments. In addition, fake accounts or organized activities on social media can be used to exaggerate specific opinions or suppress opposing views, creating collective conformity pressure and guiding public opinion in a particular direction. However, experts say that with the current level of technology, electronic device-based brainwashing technology that completely controls an individual's free will, as depicted in movies, is impossible to realize. The potential technologies mentioned above are mostly in the early stages of research, or are discussions about theoretical possible